My name is Alexandra, and this is my presentation on creative storytelling. So, film number one was called All the Time in the World, and I was responsible for the sound and the Foley during the editing. The film is about a young man who is able to control time. In the opening scene, we can see him trying desperately to fix his broken watch. And during his dinner with his other half, he plans on proposing, but every single time he tries to, something seems to go wrong. So he rewinds the time. After a few tries and more messing up, he realizes that he can actually freeze time. The idea for the film was inspired by Simpsons season 15 episode 1, which was Treehouse of Horror, as well as Pulp Fiction. Cultural considerations. Well, people tend to become very nervous when it comes to certain aspects in their life. Like in this case, it was a proposal. And the story is an extreme situation in a fictional setting which shows how it can go wrong. So it uses a real life aspect of life in order to show how even a simple thing just like that can go extremely wrong. My group managed to explain the rules of the world through an actual event where it is used, and we were able to explain how Josh's time traveling watch works without actually having to explain that to the audience, and we could just show it instead. It follows a non-linear narrative in which the audience is thrown straight away into the conflict. My role in the film. Again, I was responsible for sound. I tend to sit on the floor most of the time, and I was holding up the boom pole up to the characters. Towards the end of filming, I took 2 minutes of silence in order to record the most atmos and background noise as I possibly could for post-production. I will say that the sound in the final cut was good, and you could hear everyone as well as all the background noise, which was really good when the edited version came out. As when Josh froze time, the sound seemed to freeze along with that too, so it seemed to replicate the frozen atmosphere, which was what we were going for. And surprisingly, nothing went wrong, unlike most times where the boom pole didn't work or we had to work with a taser mic instead. I genuinely do think that All the Time in the World is one of the best films that we have made, as it truly shows and explains a story that isn't hard to understand, and the audience can see what's happening and where we're coming from. I genuinely do think that this one has the best storytelling ability, as it's easy to figure out what it's about without anyone actually having to explain it, and without the audience constantly coming up with questions. And even though the dialogue in the film was limited, I think we were able to execute the idea really well through just the image itself, and we were able to portray that really well. Film number 2 is called No Place for the Unbroken, and like last time, I was responsible for the recording sound and making sure that it all sounded good. The film is about a girl called Riley who actually turns out to be an android. At the start of the film, we can see a shot of a robot, which foreshadows what will be happening later on in the story. The girl is seen playing a piano when her father walks in and starts talking to her. After a conversation that they have, Riley asks if she remembers her 16th birthday. From that moment onwards, we can sense that there's a lot of tension in the room, and he asks her, and she asks what her real name is, as her parents have told her father. He responds with her model number. He is also holding a gun and asks her what she's going to do, and she slowly starts pulling out the gun, which was hidden behind her, and says that there's only one thing for her to do before the screen goes black and the credits start rolling. I guess we wanted to end on a cliffhanger. One of my group members have come up with this while listening to a piano song, and the inspiration for the story was Blade Runner, especially the beginning of it. What were the cultural considerations? Well, it was building a pre-existing world and taking out small sections of it. It's a theory of get in late and get out early, as well as it makes the audience build up questions, as we don't really know the answer to anything in the beginning. So I was working on sound for the film, and working on this was actually much harder, as the boom pole wasn't working with our taser mic, and we had to record the sound on just a taser mic, which made the audio sound less professional. But considering the circumstances that we were going through, I genuinely do think that we have done a really good job with the sound. And I will say that next time, before we do start filming, we should test everything, which was actually what we have done the day before, and it was completely fine. So the fact that our sound wasn't working properly on the day was just bad luck. I think that, along with All the Time in the World, this was genuinely one of our best films that we've done, and we've done a really good job at executing the idea on set onto the film so that the audience know what is going on. We aimed the film at people who would be interested with sci-fi because of androids, and we knew that a lot of people on a course would know a lot about that, and we knew that it would be understood amongst the audience. And I think that we've done a really good job with this film, as well as making the audience feel a bit uncomfortable with the fact that both characters had guns and their tension was really thick.